Good evening and welcome.
Hello,
Welcome and
hello.
good evening.
Yes, welcome to the Bonsai Pact podcast slash conversation machine,
Yes.
conversation machine, like that.
The
The
unstoppable
Burt
talkie box.
Kreischer of casting.
Yes.
Sounds like
The
it.
machine.
I wonder if what would happen if Kamala had her own cast.
If wait,
I know
you cut out.
Hillary Clinton. Uh, I was wondering what would happen if Kamala Harris had a podcast.
What would
Hillary
be?
does.
What would
It's
that be?
called, let's guess the name of her podcast. Hillary Clinton.
The
What might
the
the cringe
unnecessary
name?
hour. Right.
Menopause.
uh,
Thanks
yeah.
for
Metapause.
joining Nick,
Yes.
making this
Yeah.
happen via StreamYard. Yes, it's not a
Yes. We're
sponsor, but
no.
they
StreamYard
have
is not a sponsor.
hosting on
Yes, they've been
yet.
doing pretty well. They've been doing pretty well for us. Yeah, yeah, you and me
They might
both
pay us
is
not to use them. You both. Isn't
yeah. Yeah, which
that interesting? I wonder if it's. Do you, should we pull a clip from it, or is it, or will our ears bleed in
uh
necessary ways?
let's see, you and me
Thanks
both.
for
Okay.
making time.
Yes. Thank you for making time. It's it seems like there's always time, but at the same time nobody has any time. You know what I mean?
At the same time, it's all scheduled, right? Like there's
Yes.
people are always. It. Time is of the essence, and at the end of the day, valuable of all things is probably the now, the moment. But you and me both. Is it still active?
Uh
Like
let's see, March
what was her
2011.
most recent output? Okay, so
Let's
it
check
sounds
it out.
like
No, no,
started
she
to them.
March 6th, 2023. It's still happening, apparently. Let's see if I can go ahead and share
Yeah,
this audio of the tab. Share tab audio. Go ahead and add
I'm
that to the stream. Here we go. You and me both, Hillary. Right,
so
girl? Am I
relatable.
right?
So
Am I right? Yes. It's between
she
seasons, but with the
looks
Academy Awards right around the
soulless.
corner, Hillary, she could not wait to share her conversation with Frances McDormand. Oh, so for reference, Frances McDormand
Francis,
is,
what is she plugging?
well, she was in the most recent thing she was in. She was like adopted by Canadians. Uh, I think she got nominated for Best Actress in Fargo '96, Three Billboards Outside Ebbings,
Okay,
Missouri,
got it.
and Nomadland in 2020. I also remember her
Uh-huh.
from what's that? The Haunted House or House on Haunted Hill. It was is that right? Frances McDormand horror movie. Yeah, she's a Primal Fear. I think
Everybody
she
has a
was in.
podcast. Everybody wants to have conversations, and sometimes those conversations are monetized, and sometimes not. And sometimes it's interesting to parse out what conversations are happening just out of curiosity or
Hmm.
motive, or some are are there just to fill the ad space. You know what I mean? Like the whole podcast is constructed around the revenue model of like there being ads and everything. It really
Yes,
changed
yes.
the game, didn't it? It really freed up a lot of people in a good way to continue doing what they're doing and incentivizing that kind of I like that kind of pure of revenue and just crowdfund. I
Yeah.
don't know how it came
Yeah,
up
for small
the
independent
podcast, but
creators like
it's
Hillary
Kamala. Uh-huh.
and
Yes.
Kamala. All right, well, let's listen to a clip uh, of this.
Yeah. That's
Let me know
where
if you can
we were
hear it.
gonna
With
listen
so many
to
streaming
how.
devices out there today,
Okay, there's an ad.
I have a new podcast called Inner Cosmos on iHeart. I'm going to
of iHeartRadio.
I'm Hillary Clinton, and this is You and Me Both. We're between seasons right now, but I couldn't wait to share with you this conversation I had with one of my favorite actors and favorite people about her latest project.
Favorite actors. She
And
didn't
people.
say actress. She didn't say actress.
Oh, back.
She said actor.
So what is this?
Which is, it's a thing.
Gonna get her in trouble, or
that
what?
that actresses say they want to be considered actors, not female actors, not actresses, but actors, just like the male actor, which is a gendered term. I mean,
Linguistic thing? Weird. Okay.
I mean,
Favorite people and
You
favorite
can-
actors. Go Hillary.
yeah. So they're actors. So feminism is baked into the cake here.
And about the brave choices she's made throughout her extraordinary career.
Brave choices.
Like so
Career.
many of you listening, I've been a fan of Frances McDormand from the first time I saw her on the big screen. Many of you probably know her from her breakout performance in the 1996
They're
film
good music
Fargo,
villains.
written and directed by the Coen
Good for
brothers.
storytelling.
This is a Hillary Clinton ad read for Frances McDormand. Is that what this is? Is she doing like a promo reel for an actress?
Yeah,
so-
exactly.
Or people of color.
Selling something.
Okay.
Now, Frances
thing for us,
There you
Sarah, Polly, the director, and Dee Dee Gardner, our producing
People of
partner,
color, yes, okay.
is that the invitation that
So-
we've been extended.
So they're working with women working with women for women by women. Good. It's so much better than the
Women
old
owned.
boys club that Hollywood used to be, right? It was just for men by men with men only, exploiting
Right.
women. Now it's women
The
exploiting
terrible
women.
model.
The Tarantino model, is that what you said?
That would be quite the model.
Well, I mean, it's probably
Okay.
less
So
Tarantino than it is Harvey Weinstein. But I mean, like the lecherous Hollywood producer is kind of, it's a trope for a reason. But I wonder if Frances McDormand was subjected to any of those advances, or if she was passed over.
Threatened if they don't. So I felt that race of all the women of the community, 300 or more women in the community, their fates were being decided by these three families.
All the women in the community. There are no men in this community, obviously.
she's really leaning
Just
into it. She's really
Yeah, it's like
leaning
every
into
sentence.
the feminism. And
Like everywhere
I
I
wonder
click
if
randomly,
her daughter
is gonna be a woman
is involved. You know.
involved in this.
her own life.
In her political options, if it crosses the gender or the the boundaries of generation. I'm sure she's involved in some way, shape, or form, or has been in the past. But I wouldn't be surprised if she has political aspirations, later.
Chelsea
Anyways.
Clinton. Well,
The point is, if Kamala Harris had a podcast, it would be hilariously terrible. Her rhetoric, her ability to think, really just subpar. It sounds like playing mad with all her speeches, and she has this ability to say so much, yet say nothing.
Yeah.
What a gift she is. What a gift. She is truly the insurance that, Biden will. This is what a good move. Whoever off, well played. Well played. Nobody wants Kamala. Oh.
Yeah, it's interesting
Maybe
to kind of
some groups.
It's a chess move.
Women.
Yeah, maybe. Although I don't think she's polling well with women. If you believe the polls that are trying to shape your opinion, but I mean, I don't know anybody who likes her.
Gotta be like
for her.
Nobody. There's no saving grace for her, really. Anyways, let's not get too political. We had full synchronicity. Was it last week?
Yes.
I think it was last Friday or something like that. Okay. Yeah, I'm driving to a photo shoot. I'm supposed to be shooting like a real estate property, and I stop at a stoplight, and I'm looking at the Lucky Dog thrift store, and I was like, oh, what a cool store. And I saw the dog logo, and I reaching for my phone to take a photo of it to send to you. And just as I'm like about to take a photo, you literally walk into the frame in a bright red jumpsuit. Dude, it blew my mind. Like I almost short circuited. You walked past it. I just couldn't say anything. Then I had to be like, Nick. And then I think whoever was with you realized it. Yeah. But what a moment. And I'm wondering, maybe the reason why I pulled out someone thought to because you were in the vicinity, and I don't know, maybe the Bluetooth, like I sense him.
Yes.
What a great way to sing this. And the craziest part about it is I wasn't even supposed to be there. I typed in the wrong address. I did.
Oh man.
Things like that, man. Little coincidences like and synchronicities like that they get me, man. And I mean, it could have been any day, and we're always passing each other like ships in the night, I guess, but it's the happy little coincidences, happy little little symbols, little signals, little links from the universe.
Yes.
That not everything is random and meaningless,
Yes.
What were you doing in that area? And bright red jumpsuit really helped me. Like it was ironic.
Yeah.
Very ironic. The Lucky Dog clothing and the bright red jumpsuit. It was just like.
Right. It couldn't have been more perfect. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm never walking down that street. I never walk down. I mean, I live very close, but during the weekend, I never leave my apartment. Like, I don't step foot outside of it at all. So the fact that I was outside on the weekend to begin with was
with people
very,
in a social setting.
Yes, it's because, he came knocking on my door. Otherwise, I wouldn't have left. Like, he had to actually physically show up at my location. So that was...
And who was this gentleman?
That's my brother. Yeah, it's my brother.
Your brother?
My brother, yeah.
He just showed up.
He showed
And he's
up.
like, "Let's go. We're gonna walk on this bridge."
No, he said like, hey, you want
Well, it's nice
a
of
cup
him.
of coffee or something?
I
I
mean,
haven't seen you
he could
in
have
a
called.
while. Well, he did apparently, but
It's good.
the phone issues that I had,
Uh,
that phone was turned off. So I was like, we made that joke. I was like, I wish you would have texted. It's like, yeah, well, it's hilarious because I did, But anyway, no, it was really good. It was good to see him, and that the
there are
confluence of that.
too many mediums to contact you on, and it's just like Project Mockingbird. It just like wipes everything. It just neutralizes everything. There are too many ways to reach you by phone, by
Yes.
text, by email, by Gmail. So many
Yes,
emails.
Gmail, smoke signal, thrown rocks with
I'm slowly
messages wrapped around them.
going back to just phone, like just text and the email is just, it can be overwhelming.
Hmm.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Anyways, what
But
else is
yes,
on the roster to
but
discuss?
man, that day that was
Oh,
it was
yes,
incredible.
coincidence.
The red jumpsuit. As we were walking back from the coffee, we were sitting down there having a coffee, and there was an older man sitting on the bench with his shirt off, and then there was a young woman laying on the grass with her shirt off, and like sunbathing. She was laying face down in the grass, like reading a book, but and the old man was just like kind of playing with his weird hair, sitting there. He was like, he spends a lot of time on that bench, and so it was that interesting
I see,
juxtaposition.
he's a
But as we
local.
walked back, this guy goes, "Hey, nice jumpsuit." It's like, wait, did you break out? Did you break out? Yeah. And I looked back and I was like, what? I was like, yeah. And he says like, yeah,
That's hilarious.
mine from the fourth floor. I was in the, it was in the institution. It was in a mental institution on the fourth floor. This guy said, and he had one like
Asylum.
that. But he was like, yeah, what's up, brother? Like,
Oh,
what do you do? It's
snap.
like, no, I work with dogs.
Dude,
Yeah.
interesting. Cool
So-
threads at the asylums, huh?
Yes. Yeah, they are high fashion there. Like
Well,
prisoning.
it was great seeing you without planning
Yes.
it on it,
Yes.
So many, we could have been anywhere that day,
Mm-hmm.
but
But you were there.
the
You
universe
could have
has a
been
way
12
of
miles
just
away.
waving hello. Yeah, I should have been.
Yes.
It literally should have been.
No, and I heard you call my name, and I was like, that is very
Yeah.
familiar because you said it once, and I was like, wait a minute, because when somebody says my
Yes.
name, I wait for the second time, because I don't want to be like looking around, because they don't know why somebody's calling your name, so you don't respond until you figure out what it is, and I was like, that sounded familiar. It sounded familiar enough. I was
It's a
like,
good strategy
I know,
too.
and my brother goes, "Hey, is somebody just said your name?" And I looked and I was like, "Oh shit,
Wow.
yes, it's you." And I see you like hanging out of the car. That was so funny. Yes, it was so funny, man. Yeah, so random, and also that same.
I'm not
the
in that
same
area
time
often.
Me neither. Me neither. The only time really is with dogs, and it's farther west or farther east. I'm never like right there. 3
Mhm.
years ago, I would have been there, but not today. But yeah, and then I
see.
ran into an old roommate
have
of
moved
mine.
Fairly frequently. That
Yes.
same day?
Yes. I haven't seen him
That's
in
interesting.
like 4 years as well. So it's like this incredible confluence. It's
Wow.
like,
One of those days, man.
Yes.
Yeah. Some sort of stars must have aligned to bring up that theme, perhaps,
Yes.
Astrology is
Yes.
quite the topic. I hope to dive into it at some point, but maybe with an expert about guests. So I mentioned it at some point that I've been trying to find him and get him on the podcast. His name is Yuri Stasuk. He was in very similar circles that I was in in the Slavic community, to a neighbor church, basically a neighbor church. Basically, the way it would break down is that the area that the people from the church that I would attend were from Rovno, right, one area, and their church was just from a different area. People, from that area meeting to create a church. Anyways, he was a like pretty involved. I think he was becoming a pastor, or he went to seminary school to become a youth pastor, and he was very involved in the whole scene, and like he would preach, from what I remember, and he was just pretty involved in the church. And I mean, he was going to become a youth pastor, or maybe at some point he was. In seminary, he basically starts this blog, and I think he announces that he's an atheist, or that he just does not. I don't know if it was a more of a traditional or religious separation, but he that's kind of what I want to discuss with him to some degree. His how do I put it? His exodus from the Slavic community, and the response of the church, the people, and how it. I want to know what took place, and because he was one of the first kind of more public cases of people who left religious community, but who were deeply involved. But he was like 180, and he had this blog where he would debate people on, and he was very literate. Maybe it exists even now. Yuri Stasuk. I don't know what it would be under, but I'd like to chat with him about his experience with the Slavic religious community, the response of the church that he was a part of. I mean, because he was pretty embedded, and what his thinking, how he either kind of outgrew environment, or if it was a religious or anti-religious discovery, epiphany, or whatever else, shifted his paradigm. Because it's see, another thing why I wanted to interview him was because he also does know the Bible very well. I mean, and just in general, Christianity, well, typically non-denominational or Pentecostal Christian. And the ironic part is that I played saxophone at his wedding at some point. He hired the band that I was in at that time. There you go.
Is this him?
This is the guy. This is him, Yuri Stasuk. And he had a blog in which he was fairly open and literate about his experience. And so my goal of interviewing him is to fight on the nuance character of the Slavic community, and just I want insight from a completely different perspective. He went to a Hebrew institution or church, but I mean, we were part of a very similar regional environment. Anyways, so I'm trying to make that happen, and I mentioned it at some point, maybe a few weeks ago, And I have this massage client reached out. These people who I probably grew up with. It was a girl, and they said not from the Slavic community when they moved to Spokane for one was going to school, and they slowly kind of distanced themselves from, and they were going to another neighboring churches. So there's so many of them, right? But there's all these little kind of institutions, little cliques, little religious
Clades.
entertainment centers. And
Religious entertainment.
point is,
Interesting.
it's very difficult to exit. So that's really what I wanted to discuss, the reaction of people that, he
Was he excommunicated
in that
or
environment, in that institution.
voluntary
I have
apostasy?
no idea
Or
what
was he
happened.
like he just
I
left?
believe it was voluntary on his end.
Mhm.
I think that's what took place, but we can get into it. But
Yeah,
I
that's
just
interesting. I'll read this.
I want to have a window
article.
into kind of this environment. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, I mean I could read it on my own, but in preparation to speak with him. But a Moldovan native,
Maybe
from
even just some
Sacramento, is
highlights.
gonna run from Congress. Okay, yeah, for sure. Let's see. Ba-doom.
I didn't know he was Moldovan.
No, I think this is an ad, right? Bondaruk. Pyotr Bondaruk sentenced to 6 years. Interesting name. Interesting
Yeah.
name. Pyotr. Yeah. All right. You read the Bible in multiple languages. In the past, when I had read it in Russian, the phrasing was already memorized and sounded sacred, which made it difficult to visualize. Perhaps the ability to read passages in 2 languages may have influenced me to think more viscerally about the content. Yeah, and that sounds kind of familiar anyway, right? Like listening to the King James version, which is
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
the sound of the Bible that people are familiar with. Which, I mean, it's it has that vibe, but it also doesn't hit you, like you said, viscerally the way a visual translation does, or like the parables of Jesus. Those are, to me, those are a lot more accessible. Those always really stood out. Like anything that was a story that had visual elements that you can latch onto, that had like people
Yes.
doing things at a time or place
Uh-huh.
with, like that made sense. That was resonant, because that's something that's
Yeah.
normal that our minds
Following.
can latch onto, but everything else seems kind of very distant. So for me, it was different translations, different versions of the Bible that helped that like sound different.
Me too.
And then finding out what those words
What
actually
did you
meant, what
end
the
up with?
translation was.
Yes, that's so important. What version of the Bible did you end up kind of essentially using?
Well, I grew up with a Catholic Bible.
Don't say the
with
Mormon Bible.
No, with any like a Catholic Bible, St. Joseph edition, so a Roman Catholic Bible, but
Yeah.
but this.
Ah. Okay.
It's HarperCollins press, and the way that it's written and the notes are very different. Like I opened it to a page randomly. I was like, kingdoms. There's no kingdoms book in the Bible. That's the first thing I thought. Like, this is it's a completely unfamiliar text. Like I read I read a psalm. I read Psalm
Ah,
26 yesterday and was completely blown away by it. Like I had never read it before. Like everything in here I've never read before
oh
somehow.
wow.
So,
Do you
you
prefer
know,
this translation, or is it more? And I'm curious, in what way linguistically does it differ from other translations?
it's the quality of the English, the construction of the
Quality.
sentences.
Yes.
Not necessarily like good or on a good or bad scale, but like quality as in flavor. You know, like orange versus
Yes.
strawberry or
Absolutely.
like that kind of thing. And it has
Hmm.
there's a tone to it. There's a voice. You know,
Uh-huh.
writing has a voice. Like the way that you read it in your head, it sounds a
Yes.
certain way. There's a cadence. There's a rhythm and a kind of distance
Yes.
between
Hmm.
words, something like that. So
Yes.
I mean, I think the basic things are there. I haven't read it, obviously, so how can I know, like, oh, I know what's in this book? Because I don't. I mean, I've read the Bible before, but it wasn't this one. Like, this is a different one. And somehow, and it's got
And
stuff it's not in uh, the Catholic Bible. And
are
also,
there
some names
books
are different.
are there books that aren't in your Bible? 'Cause there's, non-canonical texts as well that technically probably should have been in the canon but weren't because they were either discovered later or deemed just not credible at the time, like the Nag Hammadi
Yeah,
texts.
yeah. The Gnostic
Like, what
Gospels,
do we
as it
do with
were.
those? Like, what's
Uh,
Christianity to do with those? Because they're
well,
from
I
the same
believe
time era as a lot of the
yes,
Gospels,
or later,
you know,
or later. Uh, I think they're later than Luke, right?
or later.
Uh, uh,
I believe so.
but
Yes,
uh, but yeah, I
but
mean
there's
it's very
that
interesting.
issue. They're not contended with. Like, I
Yeah,
wonder
that they
if they
are
would have been
about.
in the canon if they.
Hmm, I think like the Orthodox Church rejects them, but I think that's
Orthodox.
I think yeah, I think that's because
But
of
doesn't the Orthodox Church have a larger canon than most Christian kind of sects? I believe so, because they're,
more than the
from what Jay
Protestants.
Dyer has been saying,
Yeah.
yes, like it's more full, more expanded compared to Protestants. Maybe it's not specifically related to the Orthodox, but just
Uh, yes,
it has been mentioned
Eastern
by Jay
Orthodox
Dyer.
have third and four Maccabees. They have Psalm 151, the prayer of Manasseh in Chronicles, and first Esdras. Like these things, I don't know.
Isn't there
But
also a book of Ruth?
no,
Book of
Ruth's
Ruth?
in the regular one. Yeah, Ruth's in the Old Testament.
You're right.
Uh, yeah, that's I remember Ruth. Uh, I
Hmm.
had a music teacher named Ruth.
Hmm.
Uh, very very
What
talented.
is that short
Uh,
for?
Ruth. I think it's just Ruth.
Yeah,
Ruth
Rudyard,
or something like that.
like
Rudyard.
Rudyard
Yes.
Kipling.
Yes. What a name. Did his friends call him Ruddy, you think? Or Kip?
I'm not sure, but Rudy means red in Russian.
Rudy.
Red, Rudy.
Yes.
I'm sure there's like
It's the same thing in English, like ruddy.
uh-huh.
A ruddy landscape is red. Uh,
Ah. Speaking of names, my sister and her husband Nick have already decided on a name, which kind of shocked me because they just boom, baby's not
isn't it? Yeah.
not here yet.
No.
So
Got like
they will
another five
name
months,
this
right?
child. Yeah, They're planning to name him Leon. Leon.
Leon.
Leon.
Let me think of some famous
There's
Leons.
there's been so many recently, just like the last 5 years. I know so many people who have had that name of a child, or that child, or like they've given a child that name. So it seems to be,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
You don't pick it up
popular or
at the pound with a name already, like on the name tag on the cage. She's like, "Who's
yeah.
this one? This is Spot. No, I don't want that one. What about this one? Leon. Oh yeah, I'll take it. Nice, nice. You
But
can't
maybe the
change their
world
name.
needs more Leons, Doesn't that mean, I
Yes,
believe it means lion,
yes, it does. Uh, like
and
Trotsky,
not like hearsay.
right? Yeah,
So
not
that's a
lion.
joy. I'm gonna be an
Oh,
uncle to a little lion man.
yes,
It's a joy.
yes, yeah. This
How
is
often
very
do you
good.
see your nieces,
Not
nephews?
very. I saw
No.
them
Do the
Saturday.
lessons
I did.
continue?
No, no, they do not. The lessons have ceased. Uh,
Was there a crux
yes.
why they ceased, or is it time,
Yeah,
or
they're
is it
not.
just,
Yeah, they're just not ready. They're not
I
ready
see.
for it yet. But
At what age?
I think it's just it's attitudinal at a certain point.
Attitudinal. It's a
Like,
great
yeah,
word.
yeah. Like, when are
Yeah,
children ready to
it
bring
is.
to church? When they can be quiet and comport themselves in church. When when
No,
is
it's
it?
true, man.
When are
Like,
you ready to marry? When you know
yeah,
what that is.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I took piano lessons for so many years, probably like 5 or 6 years, and I mean, it's not that I don't like music. I just don't like playing the piano or playing the things I was forced to play. And I knew from the get-go it's just not something I wanted to play. And I remember having conversations with my parents, where I would say, "Hey, like, I appreciate you guys trying to force me to learn to play an instrument, but I don't really want to play this instrument, you know?" And because they kept saying, "Alex, when you grow up, you'll thank us." And I was like, "Why? Why would I thank you for forcing me to do something I wasn't had no interest in doing?" And
You
they
would
just
thank them
kept
for
on with
being good
that
at piano.
tagline. So,
It's like, this is the campaign we're running. We're gonna run it. Like, we already
but
paid
I
for the
knew,
creative.
it was like settled in my head, like I
Ah,
didn't really want to play piano. So regardless of how many recitals a year I was forced to perform in, or like how many pieces I was supposed to learn, commit
mm,
to memory, classical pieces. I think part of it was the fact that I didn't have the ability to choose the songs I wanted to play. They were just assigned and given to me. So I
yes.
think that had something to do with it. I bet if I had the option to learn music I wanted to play, I would have been much more motivated to play,
Mm,
but
hmm.
it's like that line. A person can only learn, or I forgot what the quote was, but
When the student
it's
is
like
ready, the teacher will appear.
that's the theme. But I think the quote is, um, regardless of how near your your eyes are to something, and seeing, like, we're only capable of learning when we're open and accepting to
Mm.
receive that. Anyways,
Yes, yes. No,
so be it.
this experience it's interesting to me as well, especially around music, because you are very talented and accomplished in music, in other instruments besides the piano. So I think that's amusing. Like, your level of talent is professional at I would say three instruments like
Oh,
voice, saxophone,
wow.
and
It's amazing.
guitar, right? You're like,
You're
so
very kind.
you would thank us. No, I'm just, these are, I state facts. Like, I really don't like compliments. I don't like them. I'm
Yeah,
uncomfortable giving them out. So like,
me
I'll
too.
only tell you if it's something you'll be happy to know it. If you're like, if you
Appreciate
appreciate
it.
hearing a fact. Yeah. It's like, okay. All right. So I think that's interesting that you would have had 25, you would thank us for forcing you to do this thing that would have made you 25% more accomplished at music in a totally unnecessary way. Right? Like, but at the same time, they're right that making you do
Yeah,
something that you're going to value later is smart. Like, that's being an adult, is putting in,
absolutely.
like, knowing that there's going
The
to be a
intent was
later.
good, right?
Yes. Yeah, totally. So it's a
The
very
intent
interesting
was good,
situation.
but it's attitudinal, as you would say. The attitude
Yes.
with which,
Yeah.
because it was pretty rigid, man. Like it'd be like, go play piano. That would be my punishment. You understand that they associated playing piano with punishment. Like,
Hmm.
and they were surprised that I didn't enjoy doing it. It's like, of course, look what you did. Like anytime I was in trouble, my parents would tell me to go play piano for an hour, so or go
Wow. I
practice.
mean,
They would funnel me into that. So
I
after
guess
time,
that's
this
oof,
association was there.
that piano equals punishment. Yeah, that's,
Hmm.
see, like, the
It's got to be a part of
technique
it.
backfired, right? Because if you think
Yeah.
about to yourself, if you have a bad habit, right? You could think every time I want to eat a Snickers bar, instead I'm going to do 10 push-ups. And then by the
Hmm.
time you finish your 10 push-ups,
Yes.
like, do I still want a Snickers bar? Fuck. I got to do another 10 push-ups. And you do another 10 push-ups and you're like, I don't want to see a Snicker. Like, before long, you're like, you'll
Yeah.
be ripped, right?
Classical
If you
conditioning.
can't fight it, right? So that you can kind of see it, it's rational. There is a rationale there. There's something
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like, you could
On
see the
paper,
gears
right?
turning. Yes, totally
Looks
on
good on
paper.
paper.
Looks good
Yeah.
on paper. Just gives you 38 paper cuts all over your hand when you're holding it. You're like,
Yeah.
fuck. When I studied music as well with piano, I wanted to learn violin instead. But
Uh-huh.
I had some problems with
Pull
my
the Shapiro,
teeth or
huh?
something like that. Yeah, almost. But so, well, learn cello because you don't have to hold it up against your chin. I was like,
Mm,
all right, I guess. Uh,
I
and it turned
see.
out I
So
love
it
the
was kind of
cello.
like it was a, uh-huh,
Consolation
uh-huh.
instrument, if that could be
Very cool.
possible. If
Wow.
such a level of decadence could be attained that you could be
That's fascinating.
consoled by the second instrument. But no, but
Consolation.
learning to play the
Wow.
piano in college. This is the thing in college. Like, when you learn something, you're always doing something you didn't want to do. That's what I figured out,
There's
which
the
is like, do
resistance.
this thing. Yeah. So there's
Yeah.
always this resistance. Like,
The
if
War of
you,
the War of Art. Great book.
yes, Stephen Pressfield,
Yes.
genius, so
It
good, so good.
That book helps me sometimes when I get too, I don't know, too much into that resistance cycle. It just helps me acknowledge
Yes,
what's going on and how to approach it. Because, I mean, as creatives, I think that just happens. It's almost like a way or a method of the creative brain to procrastinate and go long enough that you analyze all the options before really committing to the thing.
yes,
But it just comes
yes.
off as sometimes just, how do I put it? Unconscientiousness.
Yeah, yeah, or lack of
But that,
awareness. I've also heard that,
yeah,
like, drifting in a way, kind of dissociated, disembodied, kind of
yeah,
unaware.
something along those lines.
Just, yeah. Yeah, for sure. The resistance monster is so strong, and when you're really creative, it's even worse because you can
And the
think of a
bigger the
thousand
project,
reasons.
the more the resistance, I'm guessing. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's different for everybody,
sure,
but yeah, the war
sure,
of art, yeah.
but
That I
you
recommend
keep
that to
fighting it.
anybody and everybody who is in the process of creating art, music, writing. I would imagine that. I mean, I've never
Mm.
penned authored a book, but you sir have, and that book can be found on Amazon under The
Yes,
Python and the Dove
that's correct.
by
That's correct.
Nikolai Ondrovsky.
Yes.
But I'm sure the resistance to writing, is it more
Uh, it,
so, is it more difficult than on a musicianship level, the literature,
hmm.
or is it kind of a
Hmm.
similar? Because I just
Yeah, I
remember
think
writing
it's.
essays. It was so difficult from not difficult for me to do it, but difficult to start because that just forced you to think through it. That's probably one of the reasons procrastination takes place. It
Yeah,
forces you to do
yeah.
the thing.
We're trying to do a thing like if you think about writing as moving your digits at 90 degrees over a keyboard for a duration of time, it's very simple and there's nothing stopping you. But if you think of writing as I need to express the unmistakable human truth that is common to all and yet hidden, which will unlock the goodness of all the world and change everything for the better in some way that, right? That's very
Yes,
hard to start doing. That's very hard to start doing.
absolutely.
But like with it for me, I just you do a little bit at a time. Like whenever
Yes.
I
Uh-huh.
try, whenever it strikes me, like put something somewhere. Get a routine that collects your stuff. You know, like
Yeah.
that's part. Pressfield talks about that, but
I try to do the smallest unit like I try to do the smallest first step that I can, like to,
yes.
to to doing the thing. Like if I'm supposed to like, write something or I put the pen on the desk, I set it up like just so it's there so I don't have an excuse. I take care of all the things that I would nitpick about
Hmm.
and then just do the smallest unit or do the smallest kind of step that you can towards it and then do another one and then do another one. That's that's kind of been my approach, but sometimes it's like
Hmm.
I resist it, then I do the smallest thing and then boom, I'm in it. I'm in the door. And that's really
Hmm.
all it is. you know
Hmm.
Telling yourself to do the smallest unit of the thing, it's just a way to coax yourself to begin doing it, because sometimes starting
Yes.
is the hardest part. Initiative.
Start. Starting is the hardest part. That's so true. If people really grasp what
Why
that
though?
means, starting is the
Why?
hardest part.
Because it
Nothing
it
is difficult.
involves transformation. It involves change, and
Yes.
change, we resist change
Hmm.
because why do we resist change,
Because this is
right?
already good. It's a wonderful implication that
Mm,
this is so good right now that you
yes.
don't want to change a thing. That's even
Wow,
right when you think about it.
that's
I don't want
crazy.
this. This is comfortable. This
Yeah,
is enough. This is good. I'm happy with this. Why should I do anything else than this right now?
it's kind of like
And it could be
hubris.
a trap. Comfort, in a
Absolutely.
way, is a trap. Like if you're. That's
I
why
agree
a
with
lot
you.
of great writers are in a terrible position. People are like, oh, you don't have to be starving to be an artist. You can work well or do this and stuff. And you can. I don't think you can be starving. I don't think you have to be starving to be an artist, but you have to be at least hungry, right?
Yes,
Like you have to have
there's a
like the
hunger,
reason why
yeah,
most people
involved.
like that unless it's just like unless you get it to begin with, somehow, and some people are like that, but I don't think even Mozart was like that. If you listen to Mozart's early music, it's nice, it's inoffensive, but it's
Uh-huh.
not the greatness of Mozart. It's not like listening to the Requiem or listening to Elvira Madigan Concerto or listening to Eine kleine Nachtmusik, which was
Uh-huh.
just a throwaway piece for some friends,
Gotcha.
or like being amazed by his works. Like it takes a lot of time, a lot of mediocrity before you get to greatness. And a lot of people don't see the mediocrity. They only want to see the greatness, and they concentrate on saying, I'm great, and they forget. And then they convince themselves only that mediocrity is greatness, not that they're great. They convince no one that they're great,
Ah, they,
but they
I
convince
see.
themselves that their
That's the
mediocrity
loophole.
is greatness. Yeah.
It's a loophole.
But yeah. Man.
All right. Deep waters.
Deep
We're
waters, yes.
we're just gator rolling. Who, whoever is listening to this, if anybody ever does, we're gator
Mhm.
rolling them into deep waters. We start with light topics, and then we go bam, Hillary Clinton's podcast, and we go bam, other topics.
Yes. Etc. Like anything after that is
Yes, but
incongruous.
I didn't I didn't close up that subject regarding the guest that I want to have on, and Yuri Stasiuk. So I guess just he's one of the few people from the community that I'm a part of, or the series of churches. He's one of the few people who publicly kind of left the Slavic community, Slavic church, and
Mm.
also um, how do I put it? He had the blog, so he was almost like willing to debate people um, from that community that he was in. You know,
Ah,
like he was open to
right.
dialogue, so it wasn't just like you know oh, see you later, guys. It was more like here's my decision and here's why I made that decision, and I'm gonna stand with it. So I definitely
Mm.
respected that about his approach, and him being in seminary. I'm curious how that all played a role. But yeah, I'm just curious if that's a conversation that you would join me for, and interviewing
Oh
Yuri,
yeah.
because in some sense I want you to get a perspective of kind of the what it's like to be on the inside, but just like from a different perspective than me or
Yes.
Eugene or
Yeah, totally. Because it's very particular. You said it's quite common, and I think it's a large number of uh,
indeed.
like Slavic people who carry
Yes.
Slavic traditions with them into this country and maintain them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it's part of that, like the subculture communities of people that's not part of the broader culture, that kind of interfaces with the broader mainstream culture, but also keeps itself separate. And it's kind of like everyone there is Slavic. It's not like 13% of the
Yes.
people are black and 30%, 20% are Hispanic.
Yes.
They're all Slavic.
100%.
100%, right? And probably from the same sort of region.
Yes. Yeah, like living within, yeah, you're right. From the same region, from the mother country. I mean,
Yes, yes,
and on some
they're here
level,
because it's better in
regardless,
some way.
yes, they have opportunities here.
Yes.
And they came from a communist system that
Mm.
valued cohort type situations, right? So for
So
them to go
yes, yes.
from one environment like that to another, like sure they had the secular cohort that was the government, right? But like
Mm.
they were like, we're just going to create our own system, or under a religious pretense. So it's just fascinating. I will try to set that interview up, and
Yes.
if you have
Yes.
any questions for him, you're welcome
Oh.
to voice them, because it's at some point, I've been thinking about, at some point someone got to make a documentary about this. Like it's that peculiar and that impactful. Like because the people growing up in this kind of environment, they're kids and they're born into it. Chances are, like 75%, that they're not going to leave that community. Maybe
Hmm.
even their whole, you know. So
Hmm.
maybe if they like move, or like go to another state, or these things are intergenerational, like where it's passed down to another, and that
But there's
intergenerational
choices too, right?
bound.
There's choices in that
Absolutely,
intergeneration.
yes,
Like because some people would have
but there's
to
no choice
be
about
offered
what
jobs
you're getting,
somewhere
what you're
else.
receiving.
Ah.
Yeah,
Ah. Yeah. Yeah. No. No. Of course. Yes. No. The
but
You can
what was that last
decide
part?
what to do with the hand. You can decide what to do with the hand you're dealt, right? That's that's your choices.
Uh,
Now what?
yes, but
Like,
yeah,
so
but people are in a position where it's like, if you or I were born in Japan, right?
hmm,
We didn't choose where, to be born there, and given that, we were born in Sudan, that would automatically kind of bring with its own set of circumstances. Like maybe there's a large Islamic population in Sudan, maybe not.
yes, it's
That
like almost
environment
entirely, right?
environment will always impinge, or will always try to. It's like it's being sanded off, completely made smooth of all its edges. And that's a positive metaphor, but in the context of this is a social network style of people. And at some point, like I said, somebody's going to get documentary about it, because there's elements within it that are probably probably just surprising to a lot of people,
Hmm. Oh yeah,
in the
yeah,
sense
and
that from externally, an institution may look typical, you know, kind of completely red, or like just basic, but really look into it, or an organization or an institution, and the way that it functions. Yeah, it's just a
hmm,
fascinating,
yes, for
fascinating
sure, especially such a
that
long lasting
I'd
one.
like to try to correlate. Yes, very exactly. Like how long from me, when I came when we came to these, so from age 5.5, right? But I was going to church even as a child, like being brought to church, like, immediately. Like it was so ingrained
Hmm.
that it was not even a question. Yeah, so I want to have a discussion with Yuri about this potentially, and I want to get his insight. And if you can help me with it, I would very much appreciate it. And I think
Yes.
we can have a conversation that's insightful, but also helpful to people who are still in these institutions, or maybe don't want to be in, or it, we just want to just chat.
People who are struggling.
I think both
Yeah,
him and
or curious.
his
Yeah,
wife.
there's a lot of people who would be
Yeah.
interested. You know, people inside the community, people
Mhm.
outside the community
So
as well.
so
I mean, it's
I
not like there's
important
ever
interview
been a time
for
in
me at
American
least.
history
This is an
where,
important interview.
yes, for many reasons. For many reasons. I mean, when else in American history has Ukraine been so top of mind?
Yeah,
I can't think of a
it's true,
time.
man. And
Like, I'm one of the very few
and
people
I
who
can't
knows of Ukraine
fathom.
because of like, it's not, but that's just because, you know, I have
Osmosis.
family from there. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you can't help but figure it out. Uh, but still, I'm not. I mean, I'm not from there, and so it's kind of like, so I am an outsider in a way. So, but I'm also ethnically related. So it's, so in a way, like I'm
Yes, you have
part
the
of, but
hardware.
not,
The software is
right?
different.
Yeah. So software is different.
Yeah.
Yes, software. Yes, software is
Yeah.
different. Very, very different OS
You got
here.
the
It's
hardware though.
yes,
I
which
don't
is
I don't
it's
know
half
about
of
the
it.
fro. That has a
Yeah.
glitch in the matrix, but
Yeah.
it's amazing.
It's I'm part Mongolita. I'm part I'm part hairy pig. Uh, no, but it's, yeah. It would be, that would be a good way to assess the subject. I think is from someone who's not neither
Hmm.
inside nor outside explicitly. Like,
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
if I was Russian,
This is
it'd be a
important.
very
Yeah.
difficult it'd be a very difficult conversation to
Yes.
have in some ways. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I could imagine it being worse. Uh,
Yeah. And this is why I
if
actually
I was
want you
Muslim,
involved.
perhaps. Which would be
This is the
worse.
reason why I want you involved, Nick. I need somebody to help me tell this story in a non-biased
Yes.
way, in a way that is accurate, and we'll discover that by corroborating our stories, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
me, Yuri Kidilovich, everybody, whoever is in a part of this whole thing. So
Yes.
our goal, at least my goal, is to have conversations with people who went through the same process and just see what they garnered from the experience and their thoughts on it in retrospect. Because there's some people that are still there. There's some people that move on. It's just fascinating. Everybody has a different path, but the institution definitely has a impact on an environmental level. Well,
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I'm very happy to take part. It's very exciting, and I think it's present, and it's right now, and of course it's not a coincidence at all. It's
it's not.
no, no,
I
it's not
remember
at all.
mentioning him a few weeks ago, and randomly a massage client was like, "Oh, yeah, I know him. I'll reach out to his wife." Oh, and what's interesting is that the massage client was also somebody who I think she went to the same church that I did, and her husband, they, like I said, they went to school in Spokane, and they kind of distanced themselves
Mm,
from the community, and in that time they're like, whoa, they basically, as they put it, um, they had a term for it. It wasn't deprogrammed, it was deconverted, which I don't resonate with that term. Deconversion, the process of deconversion. It sounds like
hmm.
so. I prefer the term just like a deprogramming from software. Anyways, so the
Hmm.
people who were in this kind of environment, in this kind of situation, directed me towards that gentleman. So I guess the point is there's a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people who might have been involved at some point.
Oh no, we've lost Alex. Perhaps his battery has died. Can't be too sure. But what we can be sure of is that it's a very interesting story. Look forward to more of these conversations. Well, have a good night. Anytime you want. You can have a good night tonight. You can have a good night tomorrow. You can have a good night at 9:42 a.m. Whenever you watch this. Feel free to have a good night. Just have the goodest. A wonderful evening.